Hi, just welcome everybody who came tonight. We're just having this continuing discussion about proposed revisions in the multifamily bylaw. I think everybody has a copy of the latest draft that Attorney Questle had developed. I got that sent out on Friday. I wasn't expecting anybody to respond. I just wanted to give people a heads up of what we might be looking at on Tuesday. I know that Gordon C. had some concerns about stuff that was left out, and I wanted to give him to start off with his concerns, because I'm not saying he's wrong. There may be stuff we left out and needs to be incorporated.
So we said that there was going to be a minimum parcel size of 10.
So here's what I have. On my notes, I have contiguous upland, only 10 acres contiguous upland. The next page at the end, in my notes, I have no need for 10 acres because increase in 20,000 square feet per unit and 50-foot buffer around the entire development. So that's the reason why I left it out. I don't have an issue putting it back in, but I just wanted to explain to you that I didn't take it out for no reason. I had that in. I thought that was discussed amongst everyone.
I thought
it was actually, I think it was actually Amy that said we don't need the 10 acres if we have all of this. So I put that down, and that's how that got reflected in there. I guess that would only be on a multifamily development, or would that be on any multifamily? Because, like I said in the very beginning of all of this, no one's just going to put a single lot multifamily development of 4 units or less.
There's nothing that restricts that if you have 2 acres in this.
But I'm talking about just one building. So if you'll notice, the way that this is laid out right now is that I did a single structure, 2-family or multifamily dwelling.
Yeah.
And so a single structure, 2-family or multifamily development has to have 150 feet of frontage on an existing way, and it has to have the square footage listed per unit. But now, if we were to require 10 acres to start with on that,
Yep.
you would never get a single structure. You would have, every single one would be multifamily. So do you still want?
I thought that's what we had said, because I didn't think that we're talking about adding 3 and 4 families into the equation for existing lots. I didn't think we were allowing multifamilies to go in if you have 2 acres, like a 4 unit.
So we're not doing single structure 2-family. We would take that whole section out?
I guess 2-family is existing, but I don't think that we have 3 and 4 family units out there that don't have a special permit already.
This one would have a special permit still. They're still required to have a special permit.
And I think what he's saying is pre-existing.
Pre-existing
The
are
only thing
out
that's
there.
out there now.
Pre-existing is grant, I mean,
No,
there's grandfather.
That's all that's out there right now is pre-existing.
Right.
We're not looking to create it.
I don't want to see 3 and 4 family units scattered around town.
Okay. So you want them, so that you want to make the 10 acres a requirement of either?
So I understand, Gordon,
Yeah.
2-family on a single lot would be okay.
Yeah.
But you're talking about 3 or 4 family on, which would be basically a lot and a half or 3, or two lots.
Yeah. I don't want to see that. I don't think we have that in town. I don't want to
I
see
think we
that.
have a couple, but going forward, we just don't want to see it. I don't see why it would make sense anyways, put a 4-family on 1 lot or 2 lots at 80,000. As a developer, what?
It's when you have 150 feet of frontage and not 300 feet of frontage. But you have 80 feet You have 80
So you could have a
80,000 square
four-family,
feet.
but
On a
four-unit
2-acre lot.
dwelling on 150 feet of frontage.
On a 2-acre lot, or a little bit less than 2 acres, but it, yeah.
That's
generally.
definitely gonna change the look of the town.
Okay, so do you want to, I guess then we just would eliminate the single structure, we would eliminate C.
Well, I mean, you get the two-family.
You can keep the two-family, but I think,
Or, it says or multifamily too. I would say take out the or multifamily.
I think a two-family on a 40,000 square foot lot is okay, but anything greater than that would have to be a multifamily development.
Okay,
But
so,
except that a development is multiple buildings.
Correct. And you
But
could have-
are we saying that no building can be larger than 4 units?
I think that's the way it was written.
Okay, just want to make, yeah, just making sure.
that is how it's written.
Okay.
But if it's a single lot, keep it to a two-family.
Well,
Okay.
a single lot, when you're basing it on
Less than 10 acres.
20,000 square foot per unit, yeah.
But it's, a 2-family can go on less than 10 acres.
Right now, yeah, right now, it's just, yeah, 40.
I'm just confirming,
Yeah.
because this is the second time
Right.
I've
Right.
misunderstood you guys,
So right
so
now-
I don't want that to happen
So
again.
two-family right now can go on 40,000 square feet. We're keeping
By a
that.
special permit, yeah.
Right, yeah,
And by definition of a duplex.
right.
Yeah. So are you gonna, and the definitions, did we wipe out duplex?
That's a question that I have for you guys. So, and the problem with that I come to is your definition of in-law apartment, which I think is unusual. It's an unusual definition for an in-law apartment. So I would like to,
Because ultimately, it's not an apartment.
it's not,
Right.
it's a duplex, I mean, is that?
Well, it's
No,
not
it's
even a
actually, no, it's
duplex.
just, it's just a.
It's a one-family with an
Yeah.
addition.
Kitchen, yeah. It's not a good definition, to be quite honest. So I would like to, I, again,
So do you think you
at
can,
at the last meeting, we discussed side-by-sides and we discussed one above the other, and there was no problem with one above the other. So we would then get rid of duplex.
Why would we get rid of side-by-side also?
We wouldn't,
Okay.
the definition would just be
Yeah.
what I have. The
What do you
definition,
mean, because the way we had before, or?
so the definition of two-family, it would be, 2-family / duplex. So I mean, a single building containing 2 dwelling units.
Doesn't matter whether it's.
Doesn't matter, and we discussed
Okay.
this at the last
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
So the current definition of duplex will be deleted
And you're gonna replace it.
with
Right.
this.
So yeah, page
What I
one,
have.
page 1 as dwelling duplex is the second definition.
Yeah,
Then, and that gets deleted.
Yeah.
Page 3 has the new definition, which is the second one, which is the first one, dwelling two-family
and it adds duplex in there. So you can still do a duplex, but
Okay.
it's not a separate use. It's not a separate,
Because we had 2 definitions
Yes.
for two-family.
and you don't need to, I don't think. If you guys are okay with 2 families being up and down and side by side, we don't need to.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, so then,
the definition for multifamily development would have
Yes.
to change as well, right?
why?
Shall mean more than one two-family and because we're not saying that it's allowed, you can't have multiple structures on one lot.
So we're not going to allow that.
No, because we said each lot had to be,
Right, except, so I think this actually just needs to be, it needs to be defined a little more. What I'm saying there is that you can, what I'm trying to say in this is that you can have a development that has a 2-family next to a 3-family, next to a 4-family, provided that you have 40, 60, 80. So I'm not trying to say that you can put them all in one lot.
But that's all within that 10-acre.
Yes,
or
yes.
bigger parcel.
Yes. And then we talked about,
Are you keeping a 10-acre parcel? Are you keeping that, or are you getting rid of that?
I got rid of it because that was what my notes showed from the last meeting. However, apparently I'm not. I'm putting that back
Okay,
in.
because I just missed what you had said.
that was in the beginning. So now, we also talked about the whole yield plan showing the exclusive areas.
Right.
And so that means that you don't have to have a building on each lot. So I was confused about that also, and I even have a drawing from the last meeting. So I don't want you guys to think that I left here and did not listen to anything that was said, because I thought that we were okay with these properties not having exactly specific
I thought
lots with a yield plan
I thought
showing
what we
them.
had said was if you had a 10-acre parcel and you wanted to do the smallest number of buildings, you would have to have 3 lots. So you could do a 4, a 4, and a 2. Would be the smallest way to develop the street to get in there. So that would allow you to develop the street and then the smallest.
I don't remember that at all, I'm sorry.
Because I thought that's why,
That's why, if you look at number 10, the idea was the concept plan, basically, that
the
you have
units,
enough
yeah.
square footage that if you drew, and says allocate space of the 10 acres, there has to be, for that two-family, you gotta have, allocate at least 40,000 square feet for that two-family. For a 3-family that's part of this, you gotta allocate at least 60. For a 4-family, you gotta allocate at least 80. You're going to need enough frontage
For each
building, so that, for instance, if you have the 3 buildings, you're going to need 450 feet of frontage along the road also. But you're not specifically doing a subdivision, 1 building per lot. What you're saying is the development has to have enough frontage for each building. So you got to have 3 buildings, 450 feet. And it's got to have enough space allocated for each building, 40 or 60 or 80, depending on the size of the building. Since you've got the 10 acres, you're going to easily beat that, because whether you do 4, 4, and 2, or 4, 3, and 3, you're going to need, in that allocation, less space than you actually got for the 10 acres. In essence, you're going to have space left over.
And you also have the buffer around the
50 feet.
around the entire development.
Are you actually creating lots for each building?
From the last meeting, no, we're creating a yield plan that shows that all of these calculations,
So in the draft, it says lot, it doesn't say yield plan. So my interpretation would be they have to be deeded lots.
We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and I think, and that's included Amy, was that in terms of real estate development, it makes it extremely difficult to sell those properties, in that what you end up with is 3 different condominiums, and then you still have space left over in the road issue, so you end up with 3 condominiums plus a sort of master condominium.
but again, that's just the choice of the developer to do it that way. I mean, if you put the road in as a subdivision road, under subdivision control, the road could be approved by the town at some later point in time. And if each one of those buildings is on its own lot, then the ownership is up to the owners, the style of ownership, not the zoning issues around
Well,
it.
we also talk about the problems that if you've got 1 2-family in there that's sort of 3 or 4, whatever, that you run into the problems of, okay, there's nothing available for the owners of the other units to do if the building owners for one of the 3 or one of the 4 or one of the 5 decide to fall down on the job and not keep up their property.
But I guess from my perspective, the same thing could happen in a subdivision where you're
Sure. But you're not in a condominium association, you have no rights.
so just to go back, I don't know where I didn't have anything saying that it has to be, each one has to be on a lot.
But it keeps mentioning lots.
Lot. We had discussed lot,
Correct.
and then changing it to parcel.
But, so, could you just give me an example where it is, because, so you could have 2 lots that, you don't have to, but you could have 2 different lots, and so I have one thing in there where if it's by the same developer, you don't have to have the 50-foot buffer in between because it's the same development, and they can also file one application, but nowhere in here does it say that each building has to be on a separate lot. What it says is that you have to show us, like Charlie had said, you have to show us you have the 150 feet of frontage and the area for each building.
But it's also interpretation.
Okay, so show me, can you, yeah.
Number 4 on B, general regulations, that each lot containing a two-family structure,
Yep.
multi-family structure, or multi-family.
Under 2, you have lots.
No, wait, no, can you continue on, under B, your, Gordon, B?
Under B, number 4, there,
Yep.
it says each lot containing.
Okay.
That's what they're referring to, where it says lot.
Lot.
Right, but a
But that's
multi,
because you could have
No, but I'm
one with
saying
only a
that-
two-family.
That's what I'm saying, that's
Yeah.
what they're referring to.
you could,
We're talking about parcel instead of lot, because a lot is definitive with meets and bounds.
So you're gonna have a 10-acre lot.
You're
And
gonna have a
this,
10-acre lot, but each building could be on a separate parcel.
No, the parcel is the whole. When you look at the way we assess, the parcel is the whole. You can have multiple lots in a parcel.
But the problem we have with the lots is the lots have to be definitive. You have to have certain meets and bounds.
and you will with that 10-acre lot will be
With
the
the
lot.
10-acre lot.
That will be
But
the
it looks
lot.
like each building has to be on, or these
Well,
structures have to be on a lot.
not necessarily, because if you look at the 4, in fact, what Gordon was pointing out, it says each two-family structure, multifamily structure, or multifamily development. So you
Right.
could have a multifamily development on one lot.
Right, and it must have access, drainage, and utilities functionally equivalent to that provided under planning board subdivision rules and regulations. And that goes back to, Gordon, your concern about subdivision control. When I put this in, when I didn't put in that it specifically had to go to the planning board for subdivision review, is because I was anticipating condominiums. So I was anticipating internal roadways in say a condominium development, which here, they have to go to the planning board, and no matter what, they have to go to the planning board, and you have to apply subdivision rules and regulations, and you have, I think if you'll see earlier on, you have 35 days to comment and all that stuff. So the planning board has a say in access with grading, all of that. But if you have a condominium, you can't necessarily, you don't want them to have to go through subdivision control, because it's all one lot, there's no subdivision.
But my concern is that that's for a condo, but there's other ownership and, so are we saying this is only for condos?
No, we're not, so what we're saying is that,
I think that's what's
Okay.
confusing in this,
okay, but,
that's all.
so we would then need to clarify that a multifamily development that is not a condo, it could be owned by a homeowners association or however, I'm not really sure how it would be done, but that if you're gonna make them go through subdivision control, that roadway could eventually become a public way owned by the town. So, under this scenario, it's an internal drive, it's up to them, we are not maintaining it in any way, shape, or form, so it's always going to remain an internal drive. Therefore, you cannot have you can't have further frontage off of it because it's an internal drive, it's not a private way, it's not a public way.
So where do they get their frontage from?
They get their frontage from this bylaw, which says 100 feet of frontage on an internal way. It doesn't say on a public way. A public way is where they have to have, if they're gonna just do a one lot.
So an internal way, is that a private road?
It's not, it's private and it's an internal way, but it's not
Is it
necessarily a
a
private
named
road,
road?
because if it was a private road, they could then petition the town to accept it. And so I don't think that in any ownership capacity, the town would want that.
So an internal drive also would not have to, or would still have to meet with requirements for fire apparatus
So
and ambulance and...
So under this bylaw, it does. In general, I can't say that it has to, but under this bylaw, it specifically does. It says that, that it has to be access, drainage, and utilities functionally equivalent to that provided under the planning board subdivision rules and regulations.
Right.
And then I'm on B4. And then that paragraph further goes on to provide, and this is very common, I pulled this from another bylaw. It's very common to say that the planning board has to make written recommendations within 35 days, and the zoning board cannot act until those 35 days have come and gone. So
So it's not a site plan review.
we have there's also site plan review, which is separate, which
7
is,
days.
which is actually one of my questions for this group is, do we want to do site plan review after? And the other question is, do we want to have two special permit granting authority, or two permit granting authorities, or do we want to just have one board do both? And that's a policy decision, that's on you guys. I don't even have a recommendation, because I've seen it done both ways.
Amy, under 2, it indicates that you're gonna, it is subject to 16728
Yeah.
site plan review.
Yep,
Yet in 4, you need a recommendation from the planning board. So it
Correct.
should be-
Regarding the special permit.
correct.
So it should be either or, because it looks like, and it should have site plan review from the planning board prior to the Board of Appeals, so that,
So it's my opinion that site plan review should be the last permit granted, and I understand that that's different in Halifax, but site plan review is non-discretionary. So in my opinion, why would someone go through site plan review and then go to the ZBA for a discretionary permit that they can be denied? So
Makes sense.
site plan review, in normal circumstances, site plan review is always at the end. So how I was envisioning this was that the application for the special permit comes in, the planning board has to comment on it, goes to the zoning board of appeals. If they grant the special permit, they then are subject to site plan review, and that site plan review is going to talk about screening, trash removal, things that site plan review normally would consider, because this is going to be a private development. We have to know how the trash is going to be taken out, we have to know what the screening is going to be, what kind of trees there's going to be, things like that.
what's difficult is, if you don't apply to the planning board, how can the planning board make a decision or a determination of what needs to be done if they don't have an application? in
They
front of them?
do, so it says right here that the zoning board of appeals shall refer the special permit application to the planning board for written comments and recommendations within 7 days of receipt.
Okay, so the applicant should be going in front of the planning board also.
They can,
Okay.
they can definitely. It would not be under a hearing, it would be new business, and the planning board would be making a referral.
You could make the planning board the special permit granting
And then they would-
authority, and then they could
Yep.
appeal to the zoning board if they don't like.
Except right now, the multifamily, the ZBA has it.
Yep, that's the
I'm
only
not sure
reason
there's a
I put it in
I'm
there.
not sure of any particular reason to switch it over.
Because then that would clear up all that going back and forth.
Well, right now, the ZBA handles the special permit for multifamily, and the planning board handles site plan. There's no difference in the sense of that right now, if we had a special permit, and as an example, we're gonna get a comprehensive permit on Monday. Not obviously a special permit, but something different. But nevertheless, the planning board's gonna get notification about that and a copy of the application and such, and be asked to provide comments. It's really no different than in this fashion.
I was just thinking along what Alan was saying about going back.
And then the other thing is that you could continue the practice that you have in Halifax, which is you go to the planning board first, and then the zoning board of appeals. So they would apply for a site plan under 28 with the planning board, and the planning board at that time would determine if the road was sufficient, not sufficient, according to the subdivision rules and regs, would determine if the screening is sufficient. And then they would go to the planning board, they would go to the zoning board for their special permit. The recommendation from the planning board would be, as simple as, please see the site plan decision, or we have approved this, however, the roadway should be 2 feet wider, or the screening should be deciduous trees, or, not just a fence, but, deciduous trees, or something like that. The ZBA will then take that application, and they will make sure, the ZBA has to make sure there's 50 feet of screening. They have to make sure that there's, the right amount of area, things like that. But that, you could also do that, it's my understanding that's how it's done now, is that you go to planning board for site plan first. So,
Yeah, it's always up to the applicant
Yeah.
to make that decision, which one they want to go to first.
it is. So what I did want this group to look at was the setbacks that I came up with. And I did not have notes on setbacks. I'm not sure we discussed them.
This is under C or under D?
They're the same under C and D, so we
Okay.
go under D,
Okay.
under D8. So what I would like you guys to picture is that we have this internal roadway or private way or however we come, whatever that decision is. I have from there, they have to be 50, the building has to be 50 feet back.
From the internal drive?
From that internal drive. The side setback has to be 50 feet, and the side setback is between the 10-acre parcel. So whatever the side setback is of that. But then I have minimum distance between each structure is 40 feet. And then I have the maximum height, 2.5 stories, and I have the maximum lot coverage is 25. Those two are straight from the bylaw. So it's really just the first three that I'd like you guys to weigh in on. I'm not really sure.
So we're looking at a 10-acre parcel. How many units can go on that 10-acre parcel?
So if we have a 10-acre parcel, we could do, and I'm gonna use 40,000 square foot acres, even though I understand
Yeah.
it's not. It'll just make the math easier. And and please remember about me in math. 10 times 4.
And you can have 20 units?
You can have 5 4-families. You could have, you could have,
20 units?
Mhm.
yeah. And then I guess the most would be, no.
They'd all have to have at least 3 under the bylaw?
No. You could have, so if you did all 2-family dwellings, you had 10 acres,
10 buildings.
10, yeah, you had 10 acres, you had 10 buildings, each one had 2,
It'd be 20 units.
why am I only coming up with 10?
10
You have 10 buildings and 2 units per building.
So, and you need 40,000 square feet.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
20, yes.
Yeah, you've got enough acres.
So that's the most you could have.
Well, I don't think you need to keep the setbacks down that small, really.
So,
I mean, you have 10 acres, you should be able to spread the buildings out more than 40 feet.
between the 2 buildings,
They
okay.
wouldn't be on top of each other in 10 acres.
Okay, and the only reason I put those there was because of clustering, but,
Yeah, but I mean,
So regular residential homes is 60 feet between buildings as it is. It's 30 feet.
30 and 30, yeah.
So it's 60.
How are you determining the setback from what? Is it going to be from this lot you created internally, off the
No.
internal drive, or the lot line itself?
so it says right here, the minimum front back shall be 50 feet from the public way or internal drive.
Correct.
So this front setback is from the internal drive,
Okay. Correct.
okay? The minimum rear setback, the rear setback would be the 10-acre parcel, whatever the rear is.
Okay.
50 feet of that has to be vegetated.
Okay.
And then the side setback is from the sides of that 10-acre parcel. So then that's why we have to have this internal between structures.
So then the big number here is going to be the distance between each unit. That's the only
Each
important
structure,
number.
yeah, not unit structure. Right. So,
I don't have enough design knowledge to pick
I
a
don't
number
either,
at
that's
all.
why I'm putting it out to you guys.
I mean,
I'm just saying 40 feet between, you know, 2 4-family, or 2 4-family, is that what the max now is for?
4,
And you got a fire there, 40 feet's a little
okay.
close.
I mean, the
Wanna-
60 feet makes sense,
Yeah,
because if we're saying
Do you wanna go to
2,
60?
current now.
Okay. Okay.
So with the internal drive, can you have multiple, like, can you have an intersection within this? Like, can you go, you send the road north and south and have another road go east and west
Two
inside?
internal drives.
Yes, but that would be up to the planning board if they thought that was consistent with subdivision, with their current subdivision rules and regulations. Is it? Do you have subdivisions that do that?
Yeah, Highland Woods.
Yeah, the
Okay.
big southern.
Yeah. So I guess, yes, it could. However, I'm not sure that would ever happen on 10 acres. It could happen on more than 10 acres.
Yeah, because we're just limited to the minimum of 10, so.
Is there a max to how many roads you could have within there?
Is there with a subdivision?
I think
Length of road.
Yeah,
Yeah, the length, but not the number, I don't think.
So are they gonna be able to go through the same waiver process that you can do for subdivision?
So right now, they don't have to actually, they don't actually have to be granted a waiver from the planning board, but the planning board has to determine that the internal drive is in alliance with the, in compliance with the subdivision rules and regulations. And that keeps it out of ever becoming a private way that can be accepted by town meeting. And further development.
Where do you have it that it's not able to be developed further? Which,
It's because you couldn't get frontage off of it because it's not a private way.
But what I don't understand, we're granting frontage off of it now. That's where it's clouded for me.
Well,
But we're not, that's why we're not creating lots. We're saying
you have to have.
you have to have 150 feet of frontage off on the internal way. Yep.
so
on the
yeah,
internal drive.
for each building that you have, you need to have 150 feet of frontage. For each building,
So
you're gonna-
somewhere in here should say it's a yield plan.
It does,
concept plan.
concept plan. And I chose concept plan instead of yield plan because a yield plan generally is used in a cluster subdivision, which a yield plan is a conventional subdivision plan that you prove to the planning board that you can put in this many units and then they allow you to cluster them. So I don't want to confuse a yield plan with what we're doing. We're doing a concept plan, which shows that you have to have 150 frontage, you have to have, 40, 60, 80,000 square feet.
So is there anything that stops that development from being, say it's a 12 acre parcel and they only come in for 10? Does anything stop them from going for the other 2 later on?
They would have to either modify their special permit or get a new special permit. And they would have to have a public hearing and they would have to go through the whole process. As opposed to if they create some kind of roadway pursuant to subdivision control and they are able to A&R lots off of it.
Or extend an existing one.
Yep.
So if this is an internal drive, there's no way to ever create a subdivision off of it, correct?
No. A subdivision has to be coming off of a road. They would be coming off of an internal drive. They could definitely, and I've seen condominiums, phases of condominiums. So they come in with phase 1 and they build whatever they can, and then they'll build phase 2 off of that. That's all condominium.
What I was just saying is, say there's a parcel of land that's landlocked, somebody that puts in a multifamily development, internal drive, and this other landowner goes, haha, now I have access to my land through this other road.
but they don't have frontage on a public
They don't
way.
have frontage on a public way. So they would have to sell it, I guess. I don't,
And then the other question is, how much frontage do they need on a public way to do this?
They need the 150
they would
feet.
need 150 feet of frontage, I would think,
Right.
yeah. I mean, I would think the only, the scenario that I'm envisioning is that it's somehow easier for the developer to extend the internal drive than create a new internal drive. But they still have to show that they have the 150 feet of frontage.
But they already have that.
So,
Right.
so
From the initial.
to go with Bob's,
Right.
if say there's a parcel of land that gets developed with an internal drive, and then there's that landlocked piece. Can that developer go buy that and extend that out? If
With
he
a new
create-
special permit, with a modification special permit or whatever, it would be as if he came in with a 20-acre parcel instead of a 10-acre parcel.
Right, so if it was landlocked, and and your frontage has already met the requirement for the first subdivision, for the landlocked piece, could extend the internal drive, because it already has the frontage off a public way,
Yeah, that would be, it would be,
and then put in another
Yeah,
development
it
off the internal drive.
it would be questionable, but I guess the argument for the developer, if I was representing the developer, my argument would be, he could have come in with 20 acres to begin with. Now it's
But
just,
if it's a different developer.
no, you can't do that. No.
It
That's,
says under the same ownership.
no, but the development, to extend off of the development, you have to be part of that development. It has to be a phase. You have to modify a special permit. You can't modify the special permit with a different.
Somebody else's.
Yeah,
special
I mean,
permit.
that's an
Unless,
end.
like you said, they sold to the original.
Yeah,
Right.
they would have to sell it to
The original
to whoever
developer.
owns that condominium, to the condominium association, or whatever it may be.
So it needs to say in here that the 10-acre parcel has to have 150 feet of frontage to start with.
I thought that
It
it did,
does,
I'm
it does say
sorry.
that.
It does.
Each multifamily development must have at least 150 feet of frontage on an existing public way. And
And then-
that we discussed at the last
And
meeting.
then if you're gonna do internal drive and try to do something off of that, that parcel would need 150 feet off of that.
I would think so unless you're simply just modifying your special permit, but I don't think you can modify the special permit with a whole new development.
Doesn't seem,
Right.
doesn't seem, but there's nothing that says it can, so.
And this is only set up for development of condos.
No, it's set up for anything. I specifically did not limit it to condominiums.
But say you take the parcel and you put in this internal drive, and you wanted a condo, make different condos off of those multifamilies. Have different ownerships for each one of those. Then you'd have to do a subdivision to create the lots?
No, it would be, oh, you're talking about different underlying condominium.
So
Yeah.
condo A, condo B, condo C.
And they would and then that would be the condominium
'Cause it-
ownership, and then the units would be owned individually within ABC.
Can't do that.
I don't know how you would do that.
It'd have to be one condominium.
You would have to come in with separate lots.
So on a 10 acre.
If not, you are subdividing.
Because if you're on a 10 acre parcel, you should be able to get 3 lots out of it.
Okay.
So if you
Well,
wanted
you-
to change the
But then
ownership.
you don't have a 10-acre parcel anymore.
But what you're looking at here is not,
Yeah, but this doesn't allow for that, that's what I'm saying.
no, but you're not looking at 10 units, you're looking at 20 units with this one.
Yeah, I don't want, I think the 1 acre
So you're looking at
per unit
up
is,
to 10 buildings.
I think 1 acre, like 1 family per acre is what we have as an overriding for the town. So I'd want to see that listed, because that's one of the major, like, if you look at the bylaws for town, it says that it's 1 acre per family unit.
Yep.
So how do we limit that? Because I don't want to see 20 units on 10 acres.
So then we would make it that a 3-family has to have 120, and a 4-family has to have 160, correct?
Well, no, because you could still do 2 families at the 40,000.
Right, and that's what it says
But you can
now.
do that right now.
That's how it is right now, in your bylaw.
You could do a subdivision of duplexes. You'd have to get special permits.
For each one.
Right.
Yeah, I just
But if you
think,
didn't want to do the subdivision, you just want to do an internal driveway, you could still do duplexes.
then you could give me 20 units.
20.
I don't want to see us increase the density to do that.
So we wouldn't be on 2 families, but we could change 3 families and 4 families, is that, or no?
Well, I think what Gordon can tell me I'm wrong, if the 2-family is part of a development, then you run into the problem that you could have 10 of them in the development and have 20 units. And the idea is, no, we don't want 20 units on 10 acres. Now, mind you, the current zoning bylaw allows for that.
It does.
right now.
Right.
And we had a subdivision in town which got special permits to do duplexes on it. Ultimately, they didn't do them, they did single family, but they got permits for them.
But if you're not, at least as part of a multifamily development, the answer is we want to limit it to 40,000 square feet, or each unit needs to have 40,000 square feet.
So 2 families would be 80.
In this development,
Yeah.
yes.
But even 2-family of the 40,000, you still leave room for the roadway, so you couldn't do the 22 families anyways.
Most likely not, although, an acre is 43560, whereas we're talking 40,000. So there is extra, and a 10-acre parcel, there's gonna be extra. I doubt it, but
Let's see,
again,
I mean, if you
don't-
talk,
It's close.
you could end up with, so 50 times whatever the length of the road is,
Yeah.
let's say.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking beyond just the 10 and saying, I don't want to see, a 200-piece, 200-acre.
I mean, we had
End up
a
with
parcel down on Franklin Street that had a lot more acreage in it. That's.
Well, that was a proposed 40B.
Well, among other things.
Okay, so,
So limit the overall number of dwellings to the number of acres, just like it is everywhere else in town.
Say it again, limit the number of what?
Limit the number of dwelling units to the number of acres.
Basically,
well, I think we're doing more than that.
Well,
So,
if you go to 40,000.
No.
right now, we're doing 80,000 for a duplex,
Oh, okay. So you just
120
changed
for
that.
a 3, and 140
Okay.
for,
I didn't realize they
160
changed that.
for a 4, right? So we're doing way more than that.
Well, just under, like you said.
What?
Would you say? one?
Just off by, the factor of 4,000 square feet per, but that's fine.
That gets the gist of it.
right, yeah, I mean, in a sense of, your dedicated land, if you do a 4-family, you need 160, you do a 3-family, you need 120, you do a 2-family, you need an 80.
Okay,
And so if you do 5 2s, you need 400,000 square feet. If whatever the ratios are, whatever number of buildings on the is, you still need 400,000 square feet in the parcel size. And now, if you simply say 10 acres, then you've covered the 400,000 square feet plus a little bit more. So the point would be, any multifamily development needs at least 10 acres in the parcel. And you need at least 40,000 square feet per unit in the development. So that you can't even, you won't get even to 11 because you need the interior road. So even if you had the 10 acres, you get in minus the 40,000, so you've got 30 some odd thousand feet, you can't get that 11th unit in there. For one thing, you need the road in there. And second is you don't have the spare square feet even to get to number 11.
So by doing it this way, if you have somebody comes, wants a special permit for 2-family for a buildable acre, it wouldn't be allowed.
No, it wouldn't be allowed because it wouldn't be a multifamily development.
Okay, so that's gonna be written under Part C then. That's gonna be changed, correct?
Yes.
So I thought Part C, we were deleting 3 and 4 dwelling units.
we are. That's what I have,
Okay, and then we were keeping it the 40,000?
yeah. But, because, I thought we were, because that's
Okay,
what's allowed
okay.
now.
Yeah,
Just-
on a regular,
That's allowed now on a single, so that's gonna change, instead of Oh, I think that'll just change to single structure, two-family.
And then I would say number 4 for that sort of becomes a weird situation in that you're now saying you need 50 feet of vegetated buffer around the
I
two-family.
would think we move that and keep a regular,
Just remove number 4.
yeah.
And which one?
So
Especially if
under
you're
C4,
creating a 50-foot setback. So I would remove that.
But they still have to be 75 feet.
minimum rear
Yeah.
yard.
So wouldn't we just put in here what the table calls out now for 3? For C3?
We can, except I increased it because it's a two-family, because I thought that was the purpose. I thought that we were trying to shield two families and multifamilies from abutting properties.
But that's in a development.
Right.
But,
I mean, right now,
These are single structures.
right, but, I mean,
So,
correct me if I'm wrong, in the beginning you said you don't want to see a lot of.
Yeah, I don't want to
so-
see them around.
but I think you meant in a development. So now if you got 80,000 square feet, you want to put a duplex with these setbacks.
well, you only need
No,
80.
you don't need 80. you
So,
only need 40.
right, because right now, you need-
40,000, these do, if you're gonna put a duplex on 40,000 square feet, the setbacks should be same as what we have now, not,
I would recommend that the setbacks be a little bit greater for a two-family than a single-family, but that's up to you guys, it's a policy.
can that meet?
I mean,
Can you meet?
our setbacks are pretty far as it is, at 30 feet off the sidelines.
60 feet between the buildings, right?
But this is just a single lot,
No,
so
no, I
it would be 30
understand.
feet, yeah, you are correct.
Because if you go any more than that, then there's not enough room to put anything in the middle.
right.
Yeah, you
You know,
got 50,
unless you got a
75.
rectangle, if you got something 40 foot off.
If you change the rear yard to 30, you'd probably be fine, or even 40.
Well, I mean, I think you could
You'd
leave it.
have enough room to put a structure in there.
Right, because, I mean, if the minimum front is 50, minimum side, so, I mean, back is 75, you already used up 125 feet.
But you've only got approximately 200,
Yeah.
approximately 200 foot of depth.
Okay, so right now,
If you use our setbacks now, it's 50 on the street, 30 on the side, and 40 on the back.
yeah, do you want to keep that
I
for a
think-
I
two-family?
I think
Makes
that
sense.
works.
Okay,
So just go back to what we have on the table now for that.
Not about that.
yeah, that's what they're proposing. You okay with that? 30 on, okay, so it's just the rear that's changing from 75 to 40. Okay. And then the other two things are directly from the table, the 2.5 and the 25% maximum coverage. And then I'm getting rid of C4 completely. And then, so now we have to figure out what we're gonna do about internal drives versus subdivision roadways. How do you guys wanna do that?
They're gonna be under subdivision control, the internal roadway, so it'd have to meet your drainage standards.
That's how it's written right now. So right now, it's not written that they actually have to go through subdivision control. They have to go to the planning board. And I think that we could probably, if you guys want to have site plan prior to the special permit, we could have that, we could reword this to say that as part of site plan review, the planning board shall determine, sufficient grade width. What do I have? I say, so on B4, I could put something along the lines of, as part of site plan review, the planning board shall determine that each lot containing a two-family structure, or multifamily development must, so I would get rid of multifamily structure, right? It would just be two-family structure or multifamily development must have access, drainage, and utilities functionally equivalent to that provided under the planning board subdivision rules and regulations.
B4 basically covers, the planning board would have the authority to determine the road. Okay. The first paragraph.
That was the intent. I don't know, that there were comments that were different, So,
Yeah, I understand for the one system where one master condo owns everything. But if you wanted to break it up, which you could more than easily do on a 10-acre parcel, to have multiple owners, like multiple condos.
so I guess my question is, how could you do that?
How can you do
How could you do
multiple?
that if you don't have 10 acres each?
Yeah.
No, if you have 10 acres
Yeah.
and you go through, you subdivide, right?
But you
You
just
don't-
subdivide. We're not subdividing.
Then you
No,
don't
no,
have
but
10
I'm
acres.
saying if you subdivide,
Once you're subdivided, it's no longer a multifamily
It's
development.
you don't
It's a
have 10
subdivision.
acres,
Yeah.
so you can't.
I think that having the ability to go through and have the three, if you're spread out on the 10 acres, those are just the minimums. You could put the 3 condo buildings as a minimum on separate lots.
So the only purpose for that, in my experience, the only purpose for having one development have more than one association is to have a shared septic system. And so DEP will require, if you have a shared septic system, DEP will require that there be a condominium association associated with that septic system, so they can put requirements on it. So that, I would think that would be opening the door for people to put in shared systems. I don't know if we want those. You could get more developed land with a shared system than just a regular. So, and a shared system obviously would be shared per building, not shared per units. You would have one septic system for a 4-unit building, but I'm talking one septic system for 3 separate buildings.
That's probably not gonna happen.
I don't think it's a good idea, but
Well, right now, you could do it under the condos, on this parcel, right?
the only way you could do it, you could do a shared
Do all
system.
one.
You could only do one system under the condominium association, and that would be a wastewater treatment plant most likely, and nobody's gonna build that.
Well, not for 10, but maybe for more.
For more, and then if they did that, I mean, that's actually better for the town, because a wastewater treatment plant is environmentally better than
Yeah, the
systems.
wastewater treatment plant doesn't trigger for 10,000 gallons a day,
Per day, yep.
so.
And
We do
that's
that.
out of our hands anyway, that's directly from the state. That's usually around, I think it's around 89, 90 bedrooms.
Right, and this is not gonna come close. Because if you're gonna have, 20 units at,
Well, if it-
We're not anymore, we're gonna not,
Well, if we get a large enough parcel, you're
Yeah.
saying you get the
Yeah.
20 units, it's still only 40 bedrooms, let's
yeah,
say,
it's
or
only
maybe
40
50.
bedrooms, and at 110 gallons per day. So that's not gonna, I don't think that'll meet that.
Why, are we limiting the units to 2 bedrooms each?
No, but even, let's say you go to 3.
3
So-
or 4. You also got nitrogen loading too to worry about depending on the area, so I doubt very much you're gonna see 24 bedroom units.
I also don't, because of the fact that we have the setbacks that we have, you're at that, when we start worrying about that, we're looking at one building. Because here, we have the buildings spread out, so you're looking at one septic system per building.
Correct. That's plus an expansion area. You wouldn't find a shared system, because we require multiple tanks for each unit, or a tank per unit.
Yeah, you need the reserve area,
Correct.
so I think the only time we'd be looking at a wastewater treatment plant would be for a single building, and we're limiting the building to 4 units. So I don't think we're gonna be seeing, unless it's a 40B, of course,
When
then this all gets thrown out.
Not as fast as septic.
For Title 5.
Title 5, yeah, there's no, okay. Still gotta comply with Title 5. So where are we at? We've got the setbacks, all set?
So I'm changing, I'm taking out everywhere where it says single structure, 2-family or multifamily dwellings and multifamily developments, I'm taking out or multifamily dwellings. So it's just gonna be, The options are a single, two-family, or multifamily development.
Which line are you at?
I'm going through the whole thing, so I'm starting at B. So anywhere I see that, I'll take out multifamily dwellings. And if we don't have complete rewrites, it's up to you guys, but I would suggest that I submit a version that's a red line of what we have here. So now we have something to work off of. So I'll submit a red line so you can see the changes that we've made tonight. So those will come out. And then I guess we would say that on number 2, on B2, single structure, two-family, and multifamily developments, we say shall be subject to section 16728 site plan review. Should we put that site plan approval must be obtained prior to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'd want to delete the sheet from the planning, ZBA?
No, because that's going to be the special permit.
Right.
Basically, number 2 would refer to the site plan, we need site plan.
The site plan review would go to the ZBA.
Well, yeah,
Okay, okay, fine, you're still looking for the comments.
Time.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait, site plan review only goes to the planning board.
right,
Yeah, it goes to the planning board.
but the planning board usually sends out notices to.
Okay.
So in this scenario, they go to the planning board, get their site plan review,
Mhm.
ZBA gets it, they send a note back to the planning board with any additional comments.
Basically, yes.
Okay. Which they would just send them their site plan review.
With, as you said, any additional comments beyond what was in the site plan review.
So during site plan review, does it get sent out to the review engineer?
If that's what you normally would do,
It's up to the planning board.
that's up to the planning board.
If it's
Well, it
under,
normally would under subdivision. So if we're taking that in at the same, looking at it as same as being a subdivision at that point, then yeah.
I would read this that for the planning board to determine if a multifamily development has access, drainage, and utilities functionally equivalent to that provided under the planning board subdivision rules and regulations. So that needs peer review, then I would send it out.
and it would need
So
peer
we need
review.
to put it in there that peer review and paid for by
That's not under site plan?
No.
Okay.
Under the site plan review regulations, you don't have peer review? You don't have the ability to charge?
I don't think it's written in there, we'll do it, but it needs to be in there.
How are you getting it now if you don't?
Nice site plan you got there, terrible if something happened to it.
Yeah. I mean, that should be planning board rules and regulations,
Yeah.
not necessarily in bylaw, but. I mean, you need somebody to do your drainage calcs and to do your drainage basins and structures.
You know, you're right, Gordon, it's not in. So let's,
Do we need to review site plan review, part of the bylaw as well?
I don't know.
Yeah, you should probably add it there.
There's a couple of things that should be changed in this, in site plan review. But that's one that I hadn't even noticed until tonight, so.
So if you make the change there, then,
So I think that though, to make sure that the planning board can do that here, we're gonna put it here, just in case this doesn't happen. We'll put it in here.
So peer review at the applicant's expense?
So you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch 3 and 4. So it's gonna go 1, 2, and then I'm gonna put 4 underneath 2, so it comes together more. Do you know what I mean? And I'll adjust 4 in the same way about that this can be done during site plan review and there can be a peer reviewer. Or I'll refer to the above paragraph or something.
Because the problem with site plan review is really getting no teeth right now.
Not many do.
No, I know.
You know, because it is an allowed use, which here, the reason why I recommend site plan review be after is because once they get the special permit, they have the allowed use. So you're going to be reviewing this multifamily development,
Right.
assuming that the use would be allowed.
So why don't we just change it now, if it makes better sense?
Well, there's a section of the bylaw, correct, that says that,
Yeah.
that,
But the zoning board also votes on what's been presented. And if they don't have site plan review yet, how can we approve something that's not even been presented to the planning board?
it doesn't have to be. It has to be presented to you for the special permit.
Because you're giving a use permit.
You're giving the use the validation. They're only looking at internal circulation, screening, things like that.
So
So are they gonna need the review engineer?
if a plan is presented to us with building locations and all of that, and we approve it with that, goes to the planning board, they need to change things, wouldn't they have to come back to us now?
Yes, that's why site plan review should be last. The other thing is that they're going to site plan review assuming that they're gonna get whatever they're looking for. Say they're gonna go to you for a variance for a side setback. They're going for site plan review, assuming they're gonna get that variance. If they don't get that variance, they have to go back to the planning board to modify their site plan review. So site plan review should always be last, because it deals with, and the other thing is that site plan review is more of a give and take usually between the planning board and the developer, where it's, you know, the planning board will say, we prefer these trees, we want these trees, you know, things like that, where at the zoning board of appeals, it's, can we have this variance, can we have this special permit? There's not a lot of discretion where, you know, the planning board has more of, these are the trees that we like, these are the trees we don't.
Except the fact that the zoning board has the discretion whether or
Of the
not to
use.
grant
Right,
to begin with.
right, whether or not to grant it, but,
And then if there was a substantial change on the variance or the special permit that we originally issued before the site plan review, then they'd have to come back and reapply, re-advertise, everything.
But the problem with that is because you're doing that with this, and you're not gonna go to subdivision, you're not gonna go through that process, then if the engineering doesn't work out,
oh yeah, in this case, planning board should go first. Yeah. I don't have a question with
because
that.
they're not gonna know what they're looking at if they come back to us and the drainage doesn't work.
Correct.
Which is why you're putting that in that order there.
And which all indicates to all the special permits would be issued contingent upon.
Well, I think the idea is we're doing site plan first.
Yes, we are.
They get it approved, it goes to you all for a special permit based on the work, the site plan work that the planning board's done.
It doesn't specifically say that right now, but that's gonna be one of my changes. So I guess that,
The crucial thing being that site plan review can't be used to eliminate a use. In the sense of it's a legitimate use, even with a special permit, the planning board can't set it up to disallow it, either by somehow saying, no, we're not granting you a site plan, or, yeah, we're granting it to you, but with so many stipulations that in essence, we're eliminating the possibility of you being able to do what you want to be able to do.
Right.
The site plan review has to be, if it's going to be first, it has to be on the basis that, yes, the ZBA could in fact approve this.
so moving on to number 5, it's the parking, and this has been the comments since the very beginning. So what do you guys want to do about parking? So
Take it out of the bylaw.
right now you have 2 spaces per unit. Now, there's nothing in your bylaw that says that you can't have more than 2. Yours is a minimum bylaw.
For this.
I would suggest for multifamily development that you have a maximum. So you don't end up with a large property that can meet all of these setbacks and these screenings, but then internally it's a concrete ocean, you know, that, because it's all parking. So, I mean, you're not talking about, units, you're not talking about, 10-unit buildings. You're talking about a maximum 4-unit buildings. So I could understand maybe a guest parking spot or something, so
A couple.
I came up with 10 maximum. We could change that to say,
10 max.
2 unit per building plus an additional 2 units. It's up to you guys. So that means, a two-family dwelling would have 6 parking spots.
3 would have 8, 4 would have 10.
Yeah,
What is a
Is
parking spot?
it's defined in your,
Yeah, it's, what is it,
I
10
think it's
by?
6 by, is it 10 by 10, 6 by 18 or 10?
So-
I mean,
so if you
9
have a
or
driveway
10.
that's 100
That'd
feet
be
long, it's
6.
not all parking spots.
Huh?
If you have a driveway that's 100 feet long, is it technically all parking spots?
No, you have to, you
These are
have
separate
to,
from the driveway.
yeah, you have to designate them, I'm pretty sure.
Is it 6 or 10? What's it
I
about?
thought it was 9 by 8. It's usually 9 by 18 because those are the ones that are for,
12 by 20?
I think we might be 10 by 18.
okay.
Everybody drives a truck around here, so.
You're right, 10 by 20.
Which you could make them smaller than this,
You could?
because I don't think you need 10 by 20s
I don't know how big a truck is, I have no idea.
for residential.
How big's a truck?
Mine's 22 feet long, so it doesn't fit.
9 by 18.
The problem with narrowing that is your door dings. Your 2-door cars have got a wider span than your 4-door.
Oh.
And then you might be looking at the number of bedrooms per parking spaces. You got a dwelling units.
Your bylaw does not, so if you want to, we can. I have something
I
else in
mean,
bylaws
otherwise you're
too.
gonna have people just parking. I mean,
I think
you go by places now and you have a 2-bedroom house and you get 3 cars or 4 cars. That's not unusual. I don't think you wanna see the massive parking areas, but you don't wanna limit it. And people parking in,
On the driveway or on the
grass,
lawn
yeah,
or something like
with
that.
visitors or a party.
I think you could easily go down to a 9 by 18. I mean, you're talking residential area, you're not talking, store.
Yeah, because you're talking 2,000 square feet per unit, so that's, no, per,
Space.
say duplex.
Well, for the 10, yeah. I
And
mean,
then you have your, I'm just wondering, sitting here thinking, with our new setbacks and whatnot, with 150 feet of frontage and the setbacks on the front, the side, now we have parking and whatnot, what size duplex are you gonna be able to put on that 25% maximum requirement? What size duplex are you gonna be able to put on there?
well, no different than you can right now.
Yeah.
Duplexes are,
Duplexes, right?
they're usually the maximum, they're usually three bedrooms. You're not gonna see a 5-bedroom duplex, it's just not gonna sell. But the way that your bylaw is written now, it's not bedrooms. The way that it's written now, it's 2.5 spaces of paved off-street parking for each unit in a multifamily home, development, or complex. So what I did was a combination where I did a maximum.
So if you had a duplex, you'd have to have 5 spaces.
Or 6, 2.5, yes, 5, sorry.
So that would be a space that's 54 by 18.
Or
Or
20,
40 foot, 45 by 18.
yeah, total for the whole area.
So you're saying 4 spaces per unit?
No, that's 2.5 spaces per unit. A duplex would give you 5 spaces. 3 units, you'd have to have 8.
Mhm.
You're not gonna put in a half space,
No,
so you round
you
up.
round up. So do you want to do 2.5 per unit?
I think it makes sense.
Okay.
I mean,
And the other thing is, I'm not sure,
Amy, back to the
Yes.
parking.
Yes.
The screen from public for adjacent or abutting properties,
Yes.
Is that necessary or more so for like a two-family? If you have a two-family on a regular lot, how are you gonna screen the parking from a regular roadway?
What section are we?
But are we talking
Five.
Section
B,
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 5, just on parking in general.
Yeah,
It says it shall be screened from public ways and adjacent or abutting properties.
right, and that's what I mean, that's the
Yeah,
challenge.
So is that,
for like a house?
How do you guys do it for site plan now, for screening parking
I
areas?
don't think we've done site plan for two families.
Okay. Okay, so
Multifamily, yeah, but not two families.
you want to take that out?
so, I mean, maybe take it off a two-family, but what about the developments?
So the developments we'll get to, because I think I also said no parking in the front of the developments, didn't I?
I think our bylaw says that.
Oh, okay, then maybe that's what, yeah.
You can't park in front because.
It says,
of fire.
Oh, no, I put the 50-foot buffer should not be free of parking.
So on that one, can we include, does not include the road or internal drive as well?
No, we're only on single family,
Okay.
single lot, two families.
Okay.
And so we're doing, I'm taking out
Parking.
the first sentence, parking areas shall be screened from public ways, right? Okay.
And
And then I'm gonna change it to 9 by 18, 2.5 per unit
But that's,
with a maximum.
but that, you wanted to keep that for the development,
Yeah, we're
correct?
not there yet, we're only on B.
So we're gonna subdivide, so
Yeah,
this
we're gonna
definition is
have to.
different?
No, we're gonna have to do two separate
But
ones.
B is,
Okay.
Yeah.
B is also multi-family development.
No, this is gonna go, what we're talking about now is gonna go into C, and then we're gonna do a different one that's gonna go into multifamily.
Oh, okay.
We have to, because we're separating it out. And so, are we doing a maximum amount of parking for a two-family building? We're just gonna do two, they have to have a minimum.
I think you have to have a minimum, because
No
we
maximum.
don't have a
Developers are
maximum.
gonna be putting down all
Okay.
sorts of asphalt either, it's
Okay.
expensive.
Got it.
also, we got the 25% coverage rule
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but I
this
don't
is
think
gonna
you're
be
gonna come
for
close to
two.
And you're restricting duplexes, you're not restricting all the single family.
Move to C.
25% is a lot.
Oh, I know.
Do we have a minimum driveway for a single family? Parking for a single family?
No,
No, that's what I said.
So, yeah, this doesn't make sense if it's gonna be in the same.
Right.
So we're all set for C. It's gonna say, there shall be, basically, we're gonna mimic the bylaw, 2.5 spaces per unit, but we're gonna change it so the spaces can be 9 by 18. So then for D, so we're gonna take the same thing we're looking at now, 5, and I'm gonna keep the first two sentences, well, I'm gonna keep the first sentence.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna do the same thing, 9 by 18, 2.5 per unit. Is there gonna be a maximum for that or no? We're good with no maximum?
On the multi.
Yep.
since
No,
we're saying there's a
25% is
minimum,
gonna-
when are we saying there's a maximum number of spaces?
Yeah, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
I mean, you really want them to be able to put a few extra spaces somewhere. I mean,
Okay.
occasionally
To get them
people
off
have
the
a
street.
party or something.
You have to get them off the drive, the internal drive or something. So that's where they're
There's a
gonna.
maximum.
Sure, sounds good. I don't mind.
So are we gonna say no parking on the internal drive?
We can?
No parking spaces, I mean,
You can put no
Because-
parking, but that's not gonna stop it.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Could be.
it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be
No
a town,
overnight parking on the,
well, it's not a town road.
Yeah, you couldn't enforce it.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
you
it
can
comes
put it
down
on
to
the site
size of
plan.
vehicles.
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, it could be in the site plan, but,
It could be in the special permit, then it would be recorded.
Who enforces that?
I,
yeah,
well, I think the intent there was, like with our bylaw now, was to not inhibit the fire apparatus
Right.
from moving in. So,
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
so I think that's what you kind of have to think about. In our bylaw, it says you can't park in front.
Due to
but-
public
but I-
safety.
But I think they anticipate that building being right up against the asphalt.
So-
it's-
So I don't think that, so if we could just go to 6 and 7, I don't think, I think those are fine. These are general for both. No building shall be floodlit. Drives shall be illuminated by lights not above 15 feet. And then the applicant shall submit a Title V compliant septic system design. Those are okay. So, and then if we go to, we already changed C, so the only change in C is going to be that we're gonna get rid of 4, and in place of 4, I'm gonna put the parking one there, down there. And then for
And
D,
in the table, we're eliminating 3s and 4s.
yep, it's just gonna be, it's gonna stay 40.
And the minimum rear yard is 40
40,
rather than
yeah.
75.
Okay. So now for multifamily, when I say here on jumping down to 5, internal drives are permitted provided they are sufficient width, suitable grades, and adequate construction to provide for the needs of vehicular traffic generated by the site. Do we want to put that there shall be no parking? There shall be no parking allowed on the internal drive, and then we could, you know, I think it would open it up so that the board could maybe,
Stipulate something.
maybe, yeah. I don't think it would cause any harm. I think it would just open it up to allow us to possibly try and enforce it.
Or no overnight parking.
Yeah,
Wouldn't hurt.
okay. All right,
Do you want overnight in there?
I
What
think
do you think, Amy, about overnight parking? Put that in there?
yeah, there shall be no overnight parking on the internal drive. And then I put on number 3, I put each multifamily development must have at least 150 feet of lot width frontage. And I'm missing a period. I got that from the estate lot section, so that's where you have to go back.
At 100 feet.
Right.
Right,
Oh, wait,
that's
sorry,
number
I'm sorry,
4. Number 4.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about 4.
Yeah.
Sorry. For a distance 100 feet from the front lot line.
Yeah,
I think I
the-
have to change from it should say from the internal, no, from the front lot line, because that is the main lot. Or should I say from the public way?
From the frontage from the public way.
From the frontage.
Front lot line is the public way.
Frontage of the public way. Okay. Okay, and then we're gonna change, in 8, are we gonna change, these are the setbacks. So for a multifamily development, are we gonna have the rear setback go back from 75 to 40, like we did before?
Leave it at 75.
Well, you
Leave that one at
you can't go
75?
to, you can't go to,
Yeah, you can't go to 40.
can't go to 40 because you got a 50-foot buffer.
So 75 is good with everybody?
Yeah.
And then we're changing the 40 to 60 in between buildings.
Right.
Okay.
And 2.5 stories is fine.
Anything else?
So on 9, I just want to make sure we clarify and say free of parking, any structures, or the road or internal drive. I don't want
Sure.
someone to think that they can put the road in the
Yeah.
buffer space.
Free of parking, structures, or drives, including the internal drive.
So can I ask another question on, so if you have 450 feet of frontage right now on an existing public way, and you have a 50-acre parcel. What's the, what's the limiting factor? The subdivision control regulations that they have to meet in order so that the road would have to loop back if they did something? The internal drive would have to loop back around? Because right now it's limited to 1,000 feet of a dead-end road, but if it loops back, there isn't a limit.
I don't think the frontage matters.
Well, it would matter if
Right.
you needed 2 entrances.
Right, but yeah. So if you had 450 feet of frontage and you were just gonna do, and you were doing one multifamily development with that 50 acres,
How do you make sure that they,
you would make, it would all be in the subdivision rules and regulations as to what they could do for that internal drive.
So do we put it in there that they have to meet that?
That's, the planning board would have to make that determination. So going back to 4,
See?
B4, sorry. Right? So you have to determine if it has access, drainage, and utilities functionally equivalent to that provided under the planning board subdivision rules and regulations. So that means that if the planning board rules and regulations require 2 entrances for over 1,000 feet of road, then the planning board
That applies.
would be well within their right to say the same thing on a multifamily. Because it has to be functionally equivalent. It would definitely wouldn't, in my opinion, it would not be functionally equivalent if it was just one dead end that dead-ended somewhere. 50 acres, God only knows how far it can go, right? More than 1,000 feet.
yeah, and it just goes back to that, what Bert was talking about the multiple internal drives and stuff. Crisscross streets and stuff like that.
Right. 2 entrances going back for 50 acres and cross internal drives.
Right.
As long as they met the setbacks and whatnot.
That would be
I
up
think
to the planning
I
board.
think you also have to think that if you had a 50-acre piece that went back like that, you're just gonna do a multifamily.
We're gonna do a conventional subdivision and sell the houses for a ton of money.
Well, I guess,
Sign here.
I don't know, my concerns are more overdevelopment of the town and doing a multifamily on a project like that.
But I think with the density regulations that we have here, I mean, people do a multifamily, it's gonna benefit them. And if you've gotta meet almost the same requirement for a single family, I think they're gonna go for a residential, single-family development.
Right.
Good.
It's gonna return
Yeah, I
them
mean,
more
we've had
money.
things, we've had these small subdivisions during the last 10 years. There's, fewer than 10 houses or something. It's a very small,
But if you take like the Blackledge property that you guys looked at a million times down off of Franklin Street.
But that was a problem piece of property, that's why it was coming in here. I mean,
and they
They
had
didn't
stream
have-
crossings.
yeah, they didn't have a conventional piece of highland in there, they were trying to cram in whatever they could on it. That's why it went to 40B, it's why it came back and forth so many different times, because they were trying to put more in there than really could go. And we can't stop that. I mean, people are gonna try to do whatever they're gonna do.
So I think that, I think that what we've done tonight, Gordon, has even taken this out of a traditional cluster subdivision. I don't even think you're gonna be looking at, a traditional cluster. I think I guess you could maybe see, I don't even think you would see like a cluster type development, because you still have you still have the lot area, the area requirement for each unit. So,
And if you're talking 60 feet
yeah.
between buildings,
I don't think you're,
Okay, I mean, those are my major concerns, is to see
Well, I think you-
everything packed in.
I think this, the way it's written right now, if somebody's gonna do a multifamily, it would look more like a cluster as far as, I don't see them putting in 1,000 feet of road to get 4
Right.
units in there, you know.
well,
and
they put the
they would-
450 in.
And they would be relatively close together.
Yeah.
I mean,
Still
based
60
on
feet
4
apart.
units or 3
Yeah.
units apiece. I don't see an impact in the back of the lot.
no, right, because we have that buffer.
Probably holding close to the front to shorten the roadway.
Yeah.
Lower your expenses.
Yeah.
So do you think by increasing the lot size, because we talked about the zoning board, making sure that each unit had its own separate space?
Each structure,
No, like each unit had its own
yeah.
backyard space we had talked about last time.
Yeah, but I don't think we're doing that. There's nothing in here about
I think that's
backyards.
kind of up to the condo
Yeah.
association, how
Okay.
they want to divide it.
So sometimes they'll do it by, when
Square
they,
footage.
or they'll do it by the building, so they'll put in those walls that go back. So you have like a patio and then you have a yard that's separate from your neighbor. But I don't even know if that's considered part of your unit or part of the common area. The patio is probably part of your unit, I don't know about the green area. But yeah, that would be up to, yeah. But we are making sure that when they go to the Board of Appeals, that they show, I'm putting in 4 units, so here's 160,000 square feet. That's just for these guys, I'm not using part of this 160,000 for parking for this guy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They have to go in showing all that.
Okay. So we need to look at the site plan next meeting?
I'm gonna change that language regarding the site plan comes first and peer review.
And then-
Add all that.
You talked about also the in-law and change, so what do you recommend we do to change the in-law regulations that we have?
Well, with regard to the in-law, the problem with the in-law is that I'm not sure if it's in the definition or the requirements. So it's the definition is okay. It's comprising one complete housekeeping unit with its own cooking and its own bathing and toilet facilities, wholly within the sub-room or suite of rooms occupied by an in-law or immediate family member. That seems fine. I don't know about the suite of rooms or anything like that, I would maybe change that, but it is further down, it's further in where it says that they have to, so it says that it shall share a major utility, that's fine, some shared living space and one shared entrance within the primary dwelling, that's the problem.
So that needs to be removed?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a whole other conversation because, so I agree with the in-law must be, you can have that the in-law is occupied by a relative, you can say that it cannot be converted into income producing and it's transferable. And then I do like that the size shall be no larger than 50% of the first floor living space of the main residence, or 900 square feet, whichever is greater. 900 square feet is the standard maximum for an in-law apartment. So what we need to figure out as a group is, if you want to change this, do you want to change this so an in-law apartment can only be in the dwelling, or can you have an in-law apartment that's in the garage, but it's a detached
A
garage?
detached garage
Yeah.
above the
Right.
second floor. We
Talking
have
about a
couple
she
of-
shed?
Yeah, no,
So
a
they
big
have
garage
both.
with
I've
a,
seen both. So
Yeah.
Salisbury, for example, Salisbury allows an in-law to be in a detached garage, provided it's on the same lot, same property, same owner, et cetera. But
same
then,
utilities too, or?
I don't know off the top of my head on that.
Yeah.
But other towns, Abington, Wayland, they require that it be in the main structure.
So there are a number of things we gotta figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, in essence, it's another conversation. I agree, but I'm not quite sure. I understand your point that, you know, it's bumping against a duplex issue, but technically, the way we've got it right now, it's not a duplex, it's not a two-family. It's some additional rooms with specific things in them, but because they share the living space, in essence, there's no wall, there's an opening at some point between the two parts of the house.
But I guess right now, so could somebody come in and just get an addition?
Yeah.
Put another kitchen in, and another
Yeah.
bedroom, another bathroom,
Yep.
and not ever go for an in-law?
Yes.
Yeah, because you guys allow duplexes.
Well, not even that, but it's because of the shared, it's the shared space. Basically, you're
Oh, yeah,
expanding,
the shared space, yeah.
you're expanding the size of the house, that's
So you
all.
need a special permit.
No, that's,
That, no, that's the point, is that if it's not a separate unit, under the building code, you have no wall, there's no separation between the two living areas, because you've got that shared space.
It's not in the back.
But you can't build it with that additional kitchen,
Yes, you can.
but the building inspector would allow without special permit.
Well, when I've talked to, when I've been talking with Rob, he says there's nothing in the building code that prohibits someone from having two kitchens.
It's a
in
building
one.
code, but in our zoning bylaws, it does.
No, it doesn't. We took it out. We took it out because it conflicts with the state building code. You can't regulate what somebody does inside their building, in their house. So that came out. It used to be there. It came out.
And so basically, Gordon's correct. Someone could come in, I want to put an addition on my house, and all these things. As long as it's not separated, you don't have a second unit. So it's a single family, just been expanded. Maybe Joe over here is spending most of his time over there, and Jane's spending most of the time over there, but they got a shared living space.
So technically, you don't need an in-law permit.
Correct.
But you're not really creating an in-law because you're basically just creating some rooms for your mother-in-law to live in. She's not separated from you, she's right there. with you.
yeah, so we want to make sure that,
We want to make sure they're separated.
yep,
At least some mother-in-laws, we want to make sure they're separated.
So, but the problem, I mean, we've started heading in that direction because we used to say, okay, you had to have the permit updated every 5 years. Now it's a review every 5 years because it was getting ridiculous. People weren't coming in, A, and B, what we were going to say to somebody, if the ZBA for some reason reversed itself and said, nope, can't have it anymore, what are they supposed to do, tear it down? I mean, if they met the stipulations, my in-law is still living there and everything.
You can't have that anymore. You can put a door up.
Well, now I got a duplex and now I need a special permit. So yeah, when we've talked about
It needs to be
this,
looked at.
yeah,
Yes.
I think it really needs to become a separate issue from what we're trying to do here.
so should we stop giving out in-law permits
It's
if they're not needed?
I think it's a discussion we need to have with the ZBA and with Rob and figure out what we want to do, both in terms of the immediate future and then also figure out
Yeah.
what we want to do with the
How we
bylaw.
wanna change it.
What's our aim?
There's gotta be more of them.
And we want to look at, we also want to look at the problem that, when we run into problems in the bylaw, and I'm not saying that this happened, because I don't know if this has happened, but most of the time when I have to go to a bylaw and there's a problem where one side's interpreting one thing and another side's interpreting another thing and there's a conflict, it's usually because there's been a zoning amendment where when they made that amendment, they didn't go back and look through the whole thing and fix everything they were supposed to fix and all of these things. So if we have a whole bunch of things that we want to fix, so we want to fix in-law, we want to fix site plan, we want to fix, a few other things, we should think about how we go about doing. We should lay out a way to go about doing that. We should either do a recodification, a complete recodification, we should do it in phases, things like that. So For example, Duxbury is doing a recodification, they're doing it in phases, and we've come up with a list of the most important things that need to change first, and things like that, so we're not actually doing it piecemeal and running into problems.
It sounds like we need to do it, and probably piecemeal too, because it's too big to do the whole thing all at once.
Yeah, I mean-
You couldn't get people to sit through town meetings.
No.
There's no way. So we'd be better off doing piecemeal.
I mean, the only way would be to have enough meetings beforehand, not just,
Oh, absolutely.
It's a year, yeah, it's a years-long project if you're
I
doing
would
a
say it
complete
would be
recodification.
probably 3 months just to go through and pick out things that are obvious, and then go through and kind of see how those things hit other things.
I mean, the bylaw, you know, your bylaw is not, it's not terrible. It has a use chart, it has definitions. I'm dealing with bylaws that don't have a use chart and bylaws that don't have definitions. So, I mean, I think we're winning just because we have those two things, so,
glad to know we're not the worst in the,
yeah. so.
Good to know.
And you have zoning districts. I have a town that doesn't have any zoning districts.
It's all one.
It's all one.
That's one question I had, zoning districts. You've limited the multiple family and these to agricultural, residential,
Yeah.
where we allow business currently now, we allow single family and businesses. So just want to make sure that's the intent. In
Yeah.
conservancy, we allow single family and conservancy. And I think they allow multiple family and conservancy by special permit. Let me see this section.
I don't think anybody's been talking about changing which of these are gonna be allowed in which districts.
This some language in here, where is it? What was it? Page one.
I mean, the only thing we need to do is, I think, right now in the use table, we don't actually have multifamily development, we just have multifamily dwelling. So we're gonna need to add that as a,
Clarify.
I see that.
and we'll eliminate multifamily dwelling, which is simply a duplex.
Didn't see that in here. Okay, first section, section 2, proposed multifamily bylaw. Two-family and multiple-family dwellings are permitted in agricultural or residential zoning district.
So you want to expand that to?
Well, I think a schedule of use allows
Yeah.
it an AR business and conservancy. That would be consistent.
From multifamily?
Oh, I see what he's talking about, yeah. I see your point, Alan.
So that's for two-family and for multifamily developments?
Yeah, it's not units,
Well-
but developments.
Right now, it's for multifamily dwellings are allowed in those, because we don't have, multifamily development's not in the use chart,
Right.
so,
So,
But we get clarify that.
yeah, so where do you, yeah, we'll change that.
So right now, we allow two families and multifamily dwellings in those
Yeah.
districts. We'll just change it to say, the language needs to be, as Alan pointed out, yeah. So,
So it's included in the 3.
yeah,
Okay, so, shall be permitted in the agricultural, AR,
Business and
business and conservancy.
conservancy.
so looking at the multifamily developments, should we just make that so it's an AR and CR, conservancy? Not in the business area? Is the biggest issue that we have in town is not having business?
That's a good point.
well, actually, it's just, we don't have much commercial, I mean, there's not much commercially zoned land to begin with, that's,
Yeah, so if we make it so we can't put developments in there, at least then we're making it so you can't take up more commercial
No,
land with,
You probably, you face, is you- and some of your, most of your business district, you only go back 300 or 400 feet. So if you've got some acreage beyond that, you would be able to access through your business zone into your residential zone, the access for this development. So I don't know that people are gonna take business zone property and automatically make it multifamily, but you wouldn't be able to access it, correct?
You can't access, if it was not allowed in business, you can't
You can't,
access.
so you would
Yes.
essentially make that residential land in the rear useless for any residential purposes. So if it's consistent with the chart, it's still governed by special permit. in site plan review.
I don't know, I think,
We don't have much business.
Yeah, we don't have much, and it's strictly 300 feet back, or, I think there's some areas that it's 1,000 feet back, and maybe in the commercial zones.
I think we should talk about that after looking at the map.
Okay. Okay,
I don't think it should be offered in the commercial, the industrial, and it's not, right?
But not in the industrial zone.
Yeah.
okay. So when do we want to meet again?
How long will it take to,
These two, not much. I'm gonna just have to find, I'm just going to find something on peer review. How we want to, because I don't think you have it anywhere in your bylaw, so we'd be creating it.
Thursday?
Oh, we're ready, because we're gonna have everybody
I
here.
have something else on Thursday.
Want to come in early?
We actually, well, no, because we wouldn't be able to post it.
Well, as long as we have this set up right now, we're fine.
I'm not posted.
Well, I know, we're not posted for earlier, and it's not posted, well, again, as long as we don't hit the
Oh,
quorum
yeah, as long
problem.
as you don't hit the quorum, as long as there's no quorums, it could be part of the ZBA agenda. No, the
No, the
agenda.
agenda's already posted
Yeah,
for
yeah.
both planning and zoning.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
So-
You said when, I just,
Yeah. So,
when do you have?
you have the third week in March,
yep,
Why wait that long?
because I have meetings we have Selectmen Tuesday.
You could skip a school committee meeting or two.
Detention.
Well, I mean, I have negotiations set up like every 2 days in March, so.
how about the 16th, which is the Monday, or is that March 16th? That's the earliest day on that third week.
Do you have the Tuesday?
Yeah,
Can we do the Tuesday instead?
okay.
St. Patrick's Day.
I'll bring some boiled potatoes.
Cafeteria.
Bring beer to this.
The rest of the week is pretty, as long as you sign the petition article to do away with no alcohol on town property, yeah.
That's when the meeting's.
I'm not checking your beverages. It's just, bring it whatever, in some unlabeled container.
So the 17th at 7?
So why don't I try and get these changes made by, say, the 4th? And I'm gonna do a red line, correct? Everybody's okay with that? And then if you have any comments, maybe you could even get them back before the 17th. And then Gordon, you're gonna look at the map for
Yes.
business? Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of your input.